So today we are going to be talking about the best PCI settings that you should use in MLB the Show 22. For those of you who don't know what the PCI is, it's this big yellow thing in the middle of my screen. It plays as the barrel of the bat, so those dots in the middle, you want to get them as close to the baseball as you possibly can. Gives you the best user input. It's what all the top players use. So always make sure you have zone hitting interface and buttons input type. But one thing that was new in last year's game that didn't get talked about enough was the customization of the PCI. It really gives you the chance to use something you feel comfortable with out here, which is what the first thing I'm gonna say. Anything that I show you, you don't have to use. Try it out, see if it works for you, give it 3 games or so, but you have so many different options for the way you can customize your PCI, so what works for me might not work for you. So mess around with it for a little bit, and I say give it about a 3-game sample size, then you can go back to the drawing board, try new things out. You see how my PCI looks? I have the dots, and then this big giant ass circle on the outside of the plate. You gotta make sure you have plate coverage indicator on. Plate coverage indicator is the PCI for those of you who didn't know. So starting out, we got Pci Center. Those were the 3 dots that I used in the middle, and I use circles. Reason for that being is my thought process is I have circles in the middle of my plate. The baseball is circle, so I'm trying to match up a circle object on a circle object. Just makes it a little bit easier for me. But I know a lot of people like to use diamonds as well. It's going to be the exact same thing that I had, but instead of circles, it'll look like diamonds. This is what altitude looks like. Altitude's also a really good one, because now you're able to try to center it up in the middle of those, so it does help a lot of people, and I have used it quite a bit. I know a lot of people use diamonds, but personally it's my least favorite. I switch back and forth between circles, and then this is altitude right here, which is gonna have the 3 bars and then the circle in the middle. I think circles is good because it gives you less distraction, where altitude's good because it's gonna help you focus on centering up pitches more, because you have those outside bars and you're trying to hit the middle of an object. So both are good in their own way. PCI Inner, I use none. Instead, I use the Pci Outer, which is that big giant ass circle on the outside that you see. But a lot of people instead will use an inner instead of the outer. So they'll have outer, they'll have that turned off, and then inner, a lot of people will use wedge because wedge is shaped like a baseball bat. So I guess it just kind of depends your thought process. If you're going up swinging a baseball bat and you want to make it feel like you're swinging a baseball bat, definitely use wedge, because if we take a look here, it looks exactly like a baseball bat, like a really big giant baseball bat. That's probably the one I use the most whenever I do use PCI Inner. But we also got Starfighter here, which is going to be this weird little thing. It looks like something you'd see out of Star Wars. But if I were to pick a PCI Inner, I would stick with basic, just have a very basic looking PCI. It's just going to be 2 outside like circles. Or I would stick with wedge, just to give you the concept of I'm swinging something that looks like a baseball bat at a ball similar to like I'm playing baseball. It makes sense in my head. Maybe it doesn't for you, but it's definitely one that a lot of people tried to use a lot back in the day. I haven't used it yet this year. Pci Outer is the one that I've used at least since the end of last year and all of this year's game. I just prefer having a big outer half that I'm trying to center up on. So I stick with basic because I'm a basic bitch like that, and you're just gonna have these 2 half circles on the outside of the plate, and for some reason it just helps me center. I'm trying to hit the center of those ovals. It helps me so I don't really have to focus on the middle of the PCI as much, or instead I can focus just getting it in this big circle that I have, and I'm able to square it up, I feel like, more frequently than I have been before. So that's what I use in terms of PCI. I just use a basic outer, and then I switch off between altitude and circles between the Pci Center. As I said, this is very customizable, so you can have altitude, you can also have an inner, so we'll do Starfighter, and then a basic outer. So you can have this really big looking PCI where you have 3 different things. For me, that's way too much to focus on when I'm trying to hit. I like to have as minimal distractions as I possibly can when I'm up there. But for some people, this probably helps them. I think the most common one that people use is they'll have a Pci Center, they'll have a Pci Inner, and then they'll have nothing on the outer. So they just have this really small circle that they're focusing on, and then they just have to square up the middle of it. That's the one you see the most. For some reason, I've just always liked the outer better. But you can also choose the Pci Color, which may not seem like a big deal, but I feel like it is. You gotta remember, you're trying to hit a white ball. If you're playing in the day, oftentimes it's gonna be really hard to see that ball. I want as minimal distractions as possible, so I've always gone with yellow. For some reason, it's just super easy for me to pick up the ball, kind of square it up. Or red, I haven't had good success with. Black, definitely not. For whatever reason, some of those colors, it makes it harder for me to see the ball. Like if I have my PCI circle directly on the ball, I can't fucking see where the ball is barely, so my timing's off. It sounds stupid, but it's true. So I've always gone with yellow, and then transparency is going to be how light or dark it is. So you can turn your transparency way down and your PCI is going to be a lot lighter. And even though I do like the minimal distraction, I always have my PCI transparency to 100. This way I know where I'm moving my PCI so I can square the ball up. So say if I bring my transparency down to 40%, and we'll go with a red PCI. So now my PCI is red, but you see how light that is? That's cool and all for minimal distractions, but I feel like it's almost too light to a point where it's going to be hard to hit the baseball in the middle of that PCI. Where if you have it at 100 right now, you'll notice a big difference. It's a lot darker and you're able to at least see where your PCI is going. You can also have PCI Fade Out, but I don't recommend it just because it's going to mess with you a little bit. So say I want that outer half that I use to fade a little bit when the pitch is thrown. I can do that, so then I'll just have the circles here. You'll see we start out and then they go wet. I don't recommend it. I feel like it's too distracting. Dude, I got ADHD. I get distracted way too easily, but I always have this turned off. But you have the option to turn outer, center and outer, inner and outer, everything, none. You can do whatever you want. A lot of customization can be done with the PCI. And like I said, this is what I use. I'm gonna stick with PCI Center altitude because I want to switch things up a little bit. We're gonna go with basic, PCI color yellow, 100% transparency, no fade out. That's what I use, but you can use a variety of different things. Hop in there, try some new things out. I say give things about a 3-game sample size before you judge it. 1 game's not enough. 2 games, you could have faced 2 really good players. 3 games if you suck. There's just no hope. And also, I want to talk about the new PCI anchor. Always have that turned on with PCI anchor dots on. When you press L3, you are going to have this little dot grid come up. You can move up to where you want your PCI to be placed. So I want it low in the zone. My PCI is just gonna sit low in the zone. Even if I let go of the controller, it's just sitting in that bottom lower half of the plate. So always put it somewhere where you struggle. So you struggle with up and in pitches, I'd say put your PCI anchor there. It just makes it for an easy move up, and then you can just react to all the low pitches. For me, I like having it low because then I can crush this lower half, and then I can do a quick flick of the wrist up or flick of the thumb up to the upper half to hit the high and inside pitches. So I usually keep it around here. Sometimes I'll move inside and we actually absolutely crush that one. But this is definitely a new feature that I think a lot of people are going to start using as the year goes on, especially as we start getting some of those outliers sinker, Jacob deGrom or something like that. That's just going to be throwing 100-mile-per-hour fastball or sinkers on the inside of the plate. This way you can literally sit there and not have to think about it too much and then react to anything else. So definitely something that I recommend you having on. But that's all I got for you today, boys. Be sure to hit that like button. Let me know in the comment section if you're going to try any of these PCI tips that I mentioned, or if you found one that you are having significant success with. Let me know in the comment section. Subscribe to the channel if you're new, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace out.